Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, but most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen, and I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Corey Buchan, happy Thirsty Thursday to you, sir. Coming in hot over on YouTube. Sorry I'm a little bit late there. Now, my man Dennis Everett, what's up? Good morning, man. Good to see you. Keep posting those funny ass memes on Facebook, by the way. Those get me rolling. We got a solo show today. I'll have a couple of guests coming on tomorrow. But I do want to try and filter in some of these solo shows here in between having guests on as my primary kind of show structure. And a lot of that is I like to, kind of bring in a more granular topic and kind of break that down. And, there's just a lot of stuff that goes on nonstop out there. And, I just want to kind of bring that down to, the operator level and what a lot of us are going through out here in the market. Right. And it's, obviously at any given juncture, there's going to be something coming in about, what's going on in the market. Like, I think that people are just going to continuously talk about that as the year continues to go and progress into next year and everything else. And I kind of said my piece the other day on what I truly think is going to happen. And I just don't see any meaningful change kind of coming into the market anytime soon outside of an event, a big event that none of us want to see. I just think that, this might be the way things are now moving forward. And Josh Allen, he's with ITS, and he is, I think I've worked with him actually back in the day when we were both at XPO, but, he had said something out there like, what if this is the new normal? Like, what if this is the way that things are? And this is, one of those situations from my perspective where, this very well could go on for quite some time. The way that the market is currently performing, this very well could go on for a while now. And, I'm just going to go in and show people kind of how I forecast things, where things are heading, and, in my opinion, and kind of how to, filter in some of the seasonality of the markets and stuff like that. And, I got a little bit of data here. My friends over at Green Screen sent me a while back. And this is all, I believe that they put this all out there on their website and everything. But, I use Green Screens for all of my pricing. I just go out there. And I was literally quoting freight on there before we jumped on. But yeah, we're going to go through some of that stuff out there. But Robert Cowton, what's up? He says, good morning. Never be complacent, not even with long-standing customers. A new manager can change long-term relationships in a minute. Stay nimble and sharp. Yeah, man. I that's a really good point, Robert. From my perspective, is I think complacency is what kills a lot of organizations. Is because like the reality is when you're going out there and you're building a book of business. I mean, Robert, this, right? Like you've been with SPI for a long time. You've built up your agency. And when you're starting out, contrary to what's posted on the internet, when you're starting out, you're going to, it's one customer at a time. There's not just an overflow of freight that's just out there because you all of a sudden decided to start cold calling. It takes a long time to build that up. And then you got one customer who probably consumes the majority of your time, covers a lot of your P&L, and it's not as scary to just operate in that one account than it is to go out there and try and develop more business and continue to develop more business. And I think that, then they do that complacency reaches that point where you're like, oh, these guys will always work with us. they'll always just give us all of their freight because that's just the way it is, right? And that couldn't be further from the truth. And that's a really good point there. And then the normal of rates. Spot market carriers have focused on lowering costs and carve out a niche in the industry equals higher revenue. I agree, man. Um, Lawrence Penny, the show's about freight, man. It's been we got a little over 1,000 episodes on the podcast, all about trucking. Steve Setka, my man, soft freight market right now. Stay hungry, never stop. Amen to that. Justin McAfee, yo, happy Thursday. I couldn't agree with you more. And what is even scarier, by the time the market comes back, AI will be even better and to take more jobs. I hope not, man. I'm hoping to, still have a job here, but I will. I'm going to outwork AI. I am that arrogant. But all right, reading the freight market, forecasting rates, everything, what's going on out there right now. And I got a couple of slides here that I'm going to show you guys. Again, this is from my friends over at Green Screens. Let's see if I can go full screen on that. Maybe not. I'm not a tech company. What am I going to even try that for? But, it breaks down here in the regions. We got the Midwest, Northeast. Oh, there we go. There we go. See, maybe I am a little bit technical savvy. All right, so we got the Midwest region, Northeast, Northwest, so on, South, Southeast, and everything. And it shows the trend line on what's going. So year over year, this is August 2024 compared to 2023. And van is down negative 3.2%. Reefer is 0.2%. And flatbed is at minus 3.7% year over year. And that's just in the Midwest region here. And let's see, we got another one. And that's the carrier market spot rate trends. And that's just kind of broken down. This is the overall 2024 baseline is what that says there. And but from here, though, you guys can kind of see because they tail this all the way out to 2018, right? So you can see that. And then voila, the massive spike that happened. And we all know what happened during that time. And then you watch the drop out here. And now it's been kind of holding firm all of 2023, all of 2024. And it's still like there's, again, if you were back in this industry in 2019, 2018, 2019, right now, the way that it's performing is very similar to that. And I obviously, 2020, we don't need to say what happened there on what caused that. But, there's that cataclysmic rise that happened over a 2-year period. Again, if I'm looking at from like a forecasting perspective and reading the markets, yes, you need to pay attention to that time, but I would almost remove that from my memory. I really would, because the way that market performed there was due to a black swan event. Is that going to happen again? I hope not, from and what it did to the actual world perspective. I hope not. But again, it's like, this is the way that the market performs. If you remove that out of there, there's the drop. And then that probably would have hung up right about here and stayed there if that thing did not happen back there. And now spot rate trends are down 2.9% year over year for vans. They're down 0.9% for reefer year over year, and flatbed is down 2.3% year over year out there. And this is just the spot rate trends that are going on in the market. And, again, it's paying attention to that. Like, I know there's some lanes out there. And again, like I've talked about in the past, this is not every lane out there performs this way. And that's why it's like national averages are good, but I also don't think it is indicative of how everything performs out there. And I always want to point that out. And then here's the regional carrier spot market trends. It's the baseline that's out there. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm trying to maximize my screen a little bit here to give it a little bit more clarity for you. But, again, it breaks it all down for you guys, and it shows the trend line. And again, obviously, we know what this massive spike is. All right. So if we're looking at that, and then here is the national carrier spot rate year over year market trends as a whole and the market change. So it's just breaking it down for you guys one more time on how things have been trending. And again, this is from 2018 into 2024. So this obviously, to me, is one of those situations that I personally think, as I said yesterday, I think next year is going to perform very similarly to how it's performing right now. I think that there's a lot of macroeconomic factors that are going on out there that are going to stifle people's want or desire to spend any money at all. I think that it's going to probably continue. I truly don't see anything major happening out there. And frankly, I don't want anything major to happen from the negative side of things, right? Like, I think it's inevitable. I think that, because again, like as I go out, because I study, like I don't just have a pretty face and talk shit into a mic all day. I study different market segments out there. I study different freight regions and everything else because I'm actually cold calling, right? Like, again, I'm not just a pretty face here. I'm actually cold calling shippers every single day. I was doing that before I jumped on this call this morning here. And I'm want to be better prepared for some of the like the phone conversations that I could get. The Pacific Northwest, in the Washington region in particular, in the lane itself going down into Southern California, the I-5 was ridiculous for how cheap I saw that those rates were out there. And again, I'm not telling anybody how to quote or what to quote, but paying attention to that. This is about that time of year, though, where the Pacific Northwest is going to start increasing in outbound rates because, again, if we're looking at the seasonal freight market that's out there, the Pacific Northwest, produce, apples, potatoes, onions, stuff like that. Then it goes directly into Christmas trees. So that area, like I know Idaho's pretty hot right now from an outbound rates perspective, but once it goes, and it's going to start bleeding into Oregon and Washington here soon enough. So again, then that area is going to recover. So that's going to naturally pull up the prices on a national basis here coming up. But again, I don't think it's going to be a major uptick at all where there's a normal peak season, because Q4, which is just starting here in a couple weeks, is historically the biggest peak season of the year for dry van and reefer. Obviously, flatbed season is all but done for the year because, snow's going to start flying here soon enough in certain parts of the country. Building slows down. All of that stuff slows down. So the flatbed season, open deck season is about going to be wrapped up by, within the next 4 to 6 weeks. From that perspective, and that stays that way until about March when the ground starts thawing out and everything else. But, again, it's going to be interesting to see on if there's going to be an actual peak season this year. I think, as I said yesterday on the show with Kevin Hill, if the ports go on strike on the East Coast, like our friends in the labor union, our best friends in the union are sounding like they're going to go on strike here, that could cause a ripple effect out there. That could be beneficial for the overall freight market. It really could, because people are going to have to reroute. If they were going to export out of Savannah and now all those ports are closed and they got to now truck their stuff from Kansas to LA, that's going to, again, that could be a positive that goes on in the market that could see a little bit of an uptick in pricing. Again, I don't think anybody actually truly knows on what could happen, because I think overall the supply is still high. There is still a lot of drivers on the road. Again, I'm not sitting here saying people need to go out of business, but inevitably, that's just what kind of has to happen to balance things out. Gabe Leal, good morning to you, sir. Jose de la Cruz says, howdy, y'all. I love using AI to keep an eye on market trends, still trying to adjust to the shifting needs, but this really helpful. Hey, man, if you're talking about my show or maybe you're referring to AI, I appreciate that. Regardless, paying attention to how the market performing as a whole is very, very important. Again, everybody needs to look at it from a macro perspective. You really do. You need to get a feel for how things are, because again, like, the reality is these freight markets don't necessarily change from the seasonality of it don't change from a year-over-year basis. They always kind of tend to perform the same. All right. There's a normal start date and a normal end date for a lot of these peak seasons. Now, the rates aren't always the same, but the way that the market performs from a seasonality perspective is generally the same out there. Lawrence said, is brokerage rates dropping as well, or are the drivers the only ones paying for it? Yes, as somebody out there who's bidding on freight every single day, rates on the brokerage side are dropping exponentially. All right. I know that I don't know what side of the industry you're on Lawrence. I'm assuming you might be a driver, man. But yeah, where I'm feeling it as well. From an opportunities perspective, like people aren't opening up the doors for a lot of new business. Like it takes a lot longer. This is the longest sales cycle I've ever seen or been a part of in the market as a broker. Steve, yeah, man. It is what it is. Gabe Leal, cool glasses and video setup. Thanks, Gabe. Yeah, man. It's took about 4 years, 3 years to get to this point to where I could invest in the camera, the mics, and all of that stuff. But yeah, man, just do it every single day for a couple of years, and you can get. That's what it takes. That's the reality of it. But so again, forecasting, projections, everything. I don't see there being any major rise in everything. I know that it's bid season out there for a lot of companies right now. I wouldn't be surprised if after it's all said and done and the majority of rates are published, that there isn't much of a change at all compared to what people were bidding in 2024 for their RFP cycle for 2025. Because, again, as somebody who's out there, who's cold calling every single day, it's a very long sales cycle. All right. It's very long. So I don't think people are making very many changes to their current network. I don't think that they're going to be making any necessary or unnecessary changes, unless that there's got to be a shock to the system to cause a lot of that to happen, and that just isn't necessarily happening right now. So I think that there's a lot of yet to be seen. Again, like I was also mentioning the other day, I truly feel that the biggest exodus from the industry is going to come in on the freight brokerage side. I really do. I think more and more people are going to start leaving the market because of everything I'm talking about right now. Like it is a very challenging market to sell in. I mean, yes, we're onboarding customers. Yes, we're bidding on freight, but it's not like you're just calling people and all of a sudden they're setting you up and all of a sudden you're moving freight for them. And that's kind of like, for some reason, that's the mentality that these last couple of years kind of bred, right? Where it's like, oh, this is supposed to be easy. Everybody's just supposed to pay $5 a mile. I'm going to cold call somebody. They're going to give me all of their freight. They're going to set me up and everything's going to be great. This is the market where the real players show up. This is the market where the real players perform at a high level, and you can get in, you can onboard customers. Because trust me, if you are onboarding shippers right now, if you are able to get in the door with people, you get set up, if you're able to perform right now, you're going to do very well when things start to change. Or you're going to have a continuous growth pattern, right? Because again, it's like, I think that there's this mentality out there that, again, you just call people and they just give you all of this business. And that just couldn't be further from the truth that's out there. There's a lot more things at play. And then ultimately, why would they set you up? Like, I think people tend to forget that we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of product being shipped on every single truckload. And if you think that people just willingly set you up because you have a pulse, I mean, I'm just here to breathe reality back into your life, because that's just not the case at all. Just because you own a truck and a trailer doesn't mean you're entitled to success. Just because you started a freight brokerage does not mean you're entitled to success. You have to work very fucking hard at this. All right. Very hard. This isn't a snap your fingers and you're rich game. All right. I know that, I see a lot of that out there on social media. Oh, buy my course and we're going to set you up. Or, oh, we'll sell you these shipper lists and all that bullshit. But it doesn't teach you how to sell. All right. And you need to focus on that, because no matter how this market performs, all right, this could go on for another 3 years, right? Not saying that it will. I'm just saying it could, right? Nobody actually knows. But what are you going to do in the meantime? When I sit here and say that the overall freight market has very little effect on the majority of us, what I mean by that is if you pay attention to all the data that's out there right now, it is very depressing. It is very, did I make a wrong decision? Should I quit? All right. I'm here to tell you, no, absolutely not. I would be the biggest fucking fake out there if I told any entrepreneur or aspiring business owner to quit. Don't quit. Fucking dig your heels in. This is what you signed up for. Because I don't care what the freight market says. I don't care what any of the news is reported on it in the industry, I'm going to fucking win. All right. I am going to find a way. I am going to hold myself accountable, and I am going to make my calls. I am going to do my site visits. I am going to get in front of anybody who will listen to me to try and introduce myself and get out there and do that. And that's got to be everybody's mentality. All right. It's not, you're not entitled, again, like I said, you're not entitled to success. All right. You're not entitled to success at all. Robert says the solution to the spot market for rates is to break down base plus fuel surcharge plus appointment fee plus early AM before 8 a.m. Treat the spot market like rail, LTL, and ocean will bring stability, but I know the spot market won't accept base plus rates. Now that's a good point, man. Again, and then Steve says his thanks for suggesting, Robert. I think that as you're going out there and bidding on anything, right? I don't think that the markets fluctuate. Again, this is just from my perspective on the freight that I move. I don't think that the markets fluctuate as much as people kind of push it out there too, right? Like I want to bring that consistency to it, right? Because I've never met a customer who, when you're actually performing, communicating, doing everything, that looks at you as just a line item and doesn't see the value in what you're bringing if somebody else comes in and can run it cheaper, right? Because cheaper or whatever it looks like can bring inconsistencies to their operation. Now, it takes a while to get to that point. And this isn't saying that you can go out there and be $800, $900 higher than everybody else in every instance. But again, I think that it's from my perspective, it's about developing that consistency. And then again, it's keeping those same carriers running with you. There's a whole other component to this. I know that there's a massive load board culture that's out there in the industry, and I'm not opposed to load boards. I understand that there's a lot of value that load boards bring to the market, but like when you find that carrier that does a really good job for you, why aren't you going to them first every single time? That's what should happen. All right, you should go to them first. I know you get that, Robert. I wasn't really directing that towards you, but like as a whole, right? Like you should be going to them first, and then you should be repeating them. And then you guys should find that out. Like, again, I break it down like this. Every lane that we move inside of my operation, we try and get 4 classifications of carriers on every single load, right? We got our primaries. Those are the ones who just get it done for us. We work with them the most. We talk with them the most. Then we have our backups, right? In the event that our primary can't come through. All right. If they can't come through for whatever, because trucks break down, they get delayed, things happen. You got to have a backup. So we have our secondary. And then we have essentially our oh shit option. All right. That's the person who, and I still got this guy. And if I want to try and get him on my show, but he's out of Las Vegas and he has step decks. He is still to this day my biggest oh shit option out there. He's expensive, but that dude will always do what he says. And he always shows up no matter what. And every broker out there needs a breakdown of providers just like that, right? You need your primaries. You need your primary A and your primary B. You need your secondary, and then you need your oh shit. At least from my perspective, that's how I roll, and it seems to work out pretty well. Lawrence Penny says there needs to be a standard to shipping so everyone who's involved is paid. It's the capitalist competitive culture which keeps driving the rates lower, and it's killing this business. Driver pay has gone to hell. It's not worth it to be a company driver, owner, operator. Definitely not a lease purchase driver. I understand what you're saying here, Lawrence. And again, I can't speak for everybody out there at all, but I feel like if there's a standard, right? Say it's $2 a mile, then that's what you'll always get paid no matter what, right? Like you'll never get an opportunity to make any more money than $2 a mile that's out there. Like that's my big pushback on setting a set rate that's out there, is because the free market, in my opinion, and again, I am a capitalist. I believe in responsible capitalism. The free market is the only way to operate, because if you have a minimum, then that means that there'll be a maximum. So if that's $2 a mile, then you'll never make more than $2.05 a mile. And what stops any other costs from increasing during that time as well? And then that could suffocate you out of it. I just don't believe in price fixing from that perspective, because I feel like it limits you from ever growing. All right. And that's just my opinion on that. Jeff Clark says the longer sales cycle is a result of deeper due diligence on the shipper side, the growth of fictitious pickups, cargo theft, and the sophistication of bad actors purchasing MC numbers. Yeah, Jeff, I 100% agree, man. It's the truth. I think that the longer the sales cycle, and especially, like I don't mind it at all, because like, again, I'm prepared for the long haul. Like, this isn't a hobby to me. So from my perspective, I fully expect any shipper out there to do their due diligence on any of their providers to make sure that they are who they say they are, right? Like I don't know if you were on the stream earlier, Jeff, but I had said, like, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars per shipment out here. And that's not something anybody can take lightly. Like, it's not just no business in their right mind can just willingly write off hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in lost or stolen product, right? Like, that will inevitably cripple the manufacturer or the shipper. So yeah, I'm all on board for that, man. And I'm all about value over everything. I, as a business owner myself, I've worked with providers before, third-party providers, and they've dropped the ball. They weren't who they say they were when they sold themselves to me right away. And, again, everything's got to be earned. Everything's got to be earned long-term, and it should be earned long-term. I don't want to be given something just because I showed up. I want it to be earned. That's just, again, that's just my opinion on everything. It's a value-based proposition at the end of the day, right? If I'm adding value to somebody, I want that to come about. So, but yeah, you guys, that is going to be it for today. Again, my honest opinion, on how it's going to trend. I truly don't think that there's going to be, outside of another black swan event or a major event happening. I think that this might be the way things are here for the foreseeable future. And again, I don't make the rules. I don't write the rules or the data or anything else. I'm just somebody out there who's not going to quit no matter what. And I would highly advise each and every one of you who are watching the show right now on the live stream or listening to it on the audio only replay later, keep that same mentality. Don't quit. What better can you do? How much better can you do compared to your competitors to get in there and get that sustainable partnerships that are out there? Because people are onboarding quality. All right. You got to remember that people are onboarding quality. And if you're having troubles with that, you got to start with you. What can you do differently? Okay. How can you do this differently? And I am a firm believer that if you're not getting results, you can fix that. Okay. You truly can. You can fix it, but it's got to start with you. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.